Hey there, Michelle. How's everything going for you?
Hey, Lindsay, I'm good. How are you?
Feeling good today. Michelle, I have a question for you. Are you ready for today?
Yes.
So would you say that there's a particular interest or maybe hobby or maybe an interest in language specifically that runs in your family? Because I know you're interested in languages.
Yeah.
So does that run in your family?
I mean, my mom speaks German.
Okay.
But I wouldn't say that that's something that like very much runs in my family. I would say, well, it's just very interesting because I can't figure out one particular thing that runs in my family, because if I were to say music, my parents aren't musical, but my brother and I are musical. So it's interesting. What about your family?
Yeah, it's really interesting. I mean, I think probably work ethic does. My dad always worked really hard. My mom always worked super hard. But then I think, I mean, when we say runs in your family, does that mean genetic? Because I don't think that's genetic.
Right.
Or does that mean we learned it from each other? Right. I mean, or my brother and I learned that from my parents. Maybe my parents learned it from each other. I don't know. Right.
Yeah. I think some things would be genetic.
Yes.
I mean, I wonder if a disposition for music or something like that is genetic, or if that's just a learned thing that you get into. But then again, my brother can play by ear, so I don't know.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's interesting. I think probably some things actually there must be something in the genes, right?
Yeah. Well, maybe.
But I think, a lot of it could be learned.
It could be learned. You probably need both. You need a little bit of raw talent that might be inherited, and then you need that talent to be nurtured and brought out and put into an environment where it's encouraged, right?
Yes,
exactly. This is what we're getting into today, right, Michelle? Love it.
Yes. This is going to be a lot of fun, kind of talking about our families.
Yes.
And guys, definitely listen up, because towards the end of the episode, we are going to have a special Spotify poll. Guys, if you're listening on Spotify, we do polls with our episodes.
Yes.
And some of them are the special ones where we announce the results in a future episode. So we get to really interact with you, see what you think. It's a lot of fun. So listen up to see what that question is going to be.
Exactly. And guys, while you're doing that, go ahead and hit the follow button now wherever you listen, whether it's Apple Podcasts, hit subscribe on YouTube or follow on Spotify to make sure you don't miss our show. All right, let's get into it, Michelle. So there are a lot of ways that we could say in English that things run in the family, right?
Yeah. Yes. So today we're talking about these family type idioms, and these are incredibly good for connection.
Oh my gosh.
Sharing information about who you are, who your family is. You can tell a lot about a person, and then just it can lead you to so many other topics.
Yeah, it's true. Yes.
Yeah. So again, we may have touched on this specific idiom before, and we're going to get into a lot more today. But what does it mean for something to run in your family?
Yeah, it just kind of means that trait or that skill, or even that this could be very broad, a perspective, an opinion, color of eyes, height. It could be a lot of things. It tends to be found across multiple people in your family, right?
Right.
Yes.
Right. It doesn't have to be every single person, but you might, like, for example, like I have a dimple on my cheek and my son has a dimple.
Oh, that's so cute.
Yeah. So, and it's fun as a parent seeing what traits your kids are getting maybe from you a little bit. So that's interesting. Lindsay, you were talking about your work ethic. Anything else that runs in your family? What about like your hair, like your curls?
Yeah,
and things like that?
I think maybe wavy hair runs in my family, but through my dad. I think just through my dad, and maybe a lack of height. So my family members are pretty short. My dad's pretty short, so I'd say, just being short runs in my family to some extent. Not short, just like not tall. Let's say not tall. So What about you?
Well, I can tell you what doesn't run in my family. Athleticism. No one in my family is athletic. I mean, the closest would be my brother, but my mom, I mean, all she does is make fun of her athletic abilities.
That's
and my
funny.
actually, okay. Actually, to kind of take it back, my dad is a little like with the pickleball.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
Yeah, he does enjoy that. So, okay, I'm going to backtrack a little bit. I'll say that I get it from my mom, my athletic ability, which is horrible and non-existent.
Yeah, and that's kind of interesting too, because normally you would, if there's a talent, you'd say, "Oh, I got my niece, for example, got her talent for painting. She's kind of an artist from her grandfather on my sister-in-law's side, right?" But you're saying it kind of facetiously by saying your lack of talent or your lack of athleticism you got from your mom, right?
Right.
So that's kind of fun.
Exactly. Yeah, it is. And then as I was saying, we're always thinking, where does the interest in music, musical talent, where does that come from? And it's interesting also to see which parent you get things from. My mom is more on the shy end. Okay. She always says she's really shy, but I don't know. I don't believe her. But my dad is extraordinarily outgoing.
Okay. That's interesting.
So I would say that I get that from him, that really likes to talk to people and not shy. And
Okay. Interesting. Usually in a couple, there's a balance, right? One person is more extroverted, one person's more introverted. Although I feel like most people, honestly, Michelle, run on the ambivert spectrum rather than introvert or extrovert,
That's true. It is hard for people to pick out which one they are. No, that's a good point. It's always like, oh, I'm an introverted extrovert. Right?
Yeah. There's no clear answer. It depends on so many things, but that could be an episode for another day.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely. So if someone says that they are a certain way or they have a certain trait, you can say, does blank run in your family?
Yes.
So for example, if you are talking with your friend and you're like, wow, like your eyes look so nice with that color shirt, you could say something like, do blue eyes run in your family? So this could be a good way to open up a question.
Right, exactly. Or if you realize your friend is really talented when it comes to science, let's say science and math, maybe you could say, does a love of science run in your family? Right. And then that could open up a conversation about one of their parents is maybe a scientific researcher or something. Right.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. I mean, my husband, his, not his mom, but his dad, like, there's a lot of people. There are 3 dentists in the family. All the siblings are dentists.
Wow. I feel like dentistry tends to run in the family. And that's an interesting use of it too, because usually we don't say a career runs in the family because that's not something you're born with. But we're stretching the use of this idiom. That's funny, Michelle, because my dental office where I go, it's also 2 brothers and their dad, I think, originally owned the practice.
Really?
So there might be something about dentistry.
There's something about dentistry. And their my father-in-law is not a dentist, but he's a pediatrist, so he works on the other end.
Yep.
Of the body.
I'm not sure which is worse. Right?
Yeah, really. No, but like, an interest in medicine and an interest in science. So, they definitely get that from their dad. Yeah.
I love it. Super interesting. We are just solving all the problems of the universe today, Michelle. We're getting lots of interesting insights.
Yes.
So, Michelle, what else can we say, though, if we want to go outside of does X run in your family? What else could we say about family idioms?
Yeah, these are really fun. So this is more of a commentary. This is, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree.
Yeah, this isn't a question.
Yeah. Not a question.
Right. So this is, like you said, a commentary, a statement when you see something happen. Right. So what are we saying when we say this?
It means that you're similar to where you came from, your roots, right? Yeah. So the tree, right? You're the apple, and where you came from is the tree. Exactly. Or whoever, the subject is the apple, the main person that you're talking about. So, for example, it's amazing that your son is also a good dancer. I guess the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. So this assumes that this person is a really good dancer. Maybe they're a professional dancer, and that their son is a good dancer. So their son is the apple and they are the tree.
Exactly. Or she's hilarious, just like her mom. The apple doesn't fall far from the tree. Now, Michelle,
Yes.
when you think of this idiom, is it for negative and positive, or mostly positive, mostly negative things? What do you think?
I think it can be both.
Yeah.
I mean, I do think it has a more, to me, a slightly more positive sound to
Okay.
it. Because apples are delicious, but I think
I agree.
you could also use it. I mean, you could certainly use it in a negative way. Like, he's not very punctual, just like his dad. The apple doesn't fall far from the tree, right?
For sure. So you could use this for positive
Yeah.
or negative things. And then another one we
Yes.
like to use is like father like son or like mother like daughter. I suppose both are equally common, right?
Right.
We don't really
It's interesting.
say-
We
yeah.
don't really say like father, like daughter, do we?
I think you could.
We
I don't
could,
think-
but I feel like it's
Yeah.
it's a little bit of a sexist expression. I feel
Right.
like it
Interesting.
kind of matches the
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
yeah, you could say like mother like son. You could.
Yeah.
Um yeah,
And
you
don't
could.
forget, guys, when you say this, you need the like for both in front of son and mother, or in front of
Yes.
father and son, mother and daughter.
Yes.
So like father, like son. So how does this look when we say this, Michelle?
Right. So, for example, his father is also very athletic, like father, like son.
Yeah, and you change your intonation a little bit in the end when
Yeah.
you say the statement, right? She's very analytical, like her mother, like daughter, right? It's a commentary, exactly.
Right. And you don't need to say the first piece if it's obvious what you're talking about. You know,
Yes.
let's say you are with the mother and the daughter. Let's say you are with your friend and then you meet her mother and she looks
Yes.
exactly like your
Yes.
friend.
And I would
you
say-
might say, oh, now I see where you get your curls from, like mother, like daughter, right?
Yeah. And I think that's just a broad idea in terms of connection around comparing people to their parents. On these more basic kind of superficial aspects, fine. But sometimes people don't love to be compared to their parents as much, right?
True.
They want to be seen as unique and separate. So just think about, kind of who you're talking to before making a
Good.
big sweeping
Yeah.
statement like this, right? Especially if it's
Yeah.
about like career choice, right? Or other
Right.
things. What do you think about that, Michelle, in terms of
I
connection?
think that is a good point. I mean, I mean, I know that Dan would not be offended at all
Right.
about, if you say something about medicine, but
Yeah.
some people, I think maybe if it's someone who could feel a little insecure, like that their choice or that they maybe got something because of their parents. Do you know what I mean? Like
That's
if
a good
they
point. Entitlement.
they
kind
have the
of.
same career, right? And like exactly, like some sort of entitlement thing, or like that. I would say that's kind of a time where someone would not want to hear that, like like an actor or an actress whose parent is famous, right?
100%. Or like a
Yeah.
family business, a very successful family business where the daughter or son takes it over, and
Yes.
that could get into more dangerous territory, guys. So as we use these words to connect, we also think about what we know about the person we're speaking with, right?
Yes.
And then the other thing to know is this can be used in a negative way. Like let's say a couple is fighting, right? And maybe the guy's done something that reminds the woman of his father or something, right? That could be used in a more cutting way. So this is all across the board, right?
Right. Like, let's say that person has like a mother who has a very bad temper, and if you really want to get to them, you could say you're just like your mother. You know.
Oh, and I'll say I don't like that either. When that kind of thing being compared to traits of your parents that aren't so good, no one likes that, right?
No. So that's definitely something to stay away from. Let's keep it a little light here, or self-deprecating. If you want to tease yourself, that go for it.
Yes.
So here's one more. To get something from someone else, right? So this means you inherited some trait from someone. So you might use it like this: I get my musical taste from my father.
I love that. Or you could say she gets her sense of humor from her mother, right?
Or he gets his temper from his father, but be careful with that one.
With that.
and you could also really use this one as a question. Oh, where do you get your, oh, you're so funny. Where do you get your sense of humor from?
Yeah, I love
right?
that. I love that. Exactly. So that's an innocent question. So yeah, I think we touched on an important point here of just just knowing who you're talking to when you make this commentary. Totally innocent question. If you're just getting to know someone, you're so musical. Where do you get your talent? Right. But when you get into comparing people to their parents or suggesting that they're like entitled to things, we get into more dangerous territory, right? In terms of connection.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, all right, should we do a role play?
Yeah, let's do it, Michelle. So here we are talking about our families, obviously, right? All right. So where do you get your green eyes from?
Oh, my mom. My mom and brother both have green eyes. I get my sense of humor from my dad, though.
Nice. Curly hair runs in my family.
Oh, really? That's so nice. I love your hair.
Thanks.
And I get my hair color from my mom, like mother, like daughter.
I guess the apple doesn't fall far from the tree.
Yes.
But for that one, I personally tend to use the apple doesn't fall far from the tree more for behavioral, behavioral
rather
things.
than physical.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah,
I could see that. Yeah, I could.
Yeah.
But yeah, I did kind of.
Yeah.
Just made this kind of real, actually. So, so you said, where do you get your green eyes from? And my answer is true.
Yeah. You do have green eyes, yeah?
Yeah, they're like a greenish blue, depending on what I'm wearing.
Okay. I think green eyes must be one of the more rare colors. I have a feeling it probably is.
Yeah.
So that's cool. And then you said my mom and brother both have green eyes. I get my sense of humor from my dad, though. So now you're kind of pivoting, talking about your sense of humor, right? And, I could have responded to ask you more about your dad, right? What kind of sense of humor does he have? Is he deadpan or is he like sarcastic or like what? Yeah, ask you more. But instead I talked about my hair.
You went, why not? You said curly hair runs in my family.
Exactly. And then you said, I love your hair. And I said, thanks. And then you said, and I get my hair color from my mom, like mother, like daughter. Right. And
then you said, I guess the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. But I do totally agree with you. I think it's best used for some behavioral trait or some interest or a career or
life choices, right?
Yeah.
Life choices, things you do. Right. Right.
Right.
Yes,
like if I said,
100%.
Oh, my mother traveled. Hello?
Right. No, can you hear me?
Oh, yeah. Sorry about that.
Okay.
Yeah. Like if my mother said, if I said, oh, my mom spent a year backpacking in India and I had done something similar, somebody could say, I guess the apple doesn't fall far from the tree.
Exactly. Then you would go into the sense of adventurousness, right? That comes from that seems to run in your family, right? I love it.
Right.
I think overall this is such a good topic to open connection, Michelle. Don't you think?
Oh my gosh.
Yes,
because it's really fun to talk about these traits and share pieces, deeper pieces of yourself that you don't always talk about, right? And just to find out more about people. But again, like we said, you got to be a little bit careful. You have to think, maybe somebody doesn't want to be compared to a certain family member. Or, if they've worked really, really hard for something, they don't want you to get this idea that like, oh yeah, they got it. They got an easy go in life because their father is also a
100%
actor or whatever,
I love it. Yep. That's that extra layer of thinking when it comes to connection. So Michelle, what is our poll for today? We want all of our listeners to go on over to Spotify and participate in today's poll. What is the key question?
Okay, so the question is, what do you think runs in your family the most? Okay, and the options are physical looks, athletic ability, musical talent, or work ethic. So pick the thing that runs in your family the most.
Yes, and you do have to pick one. There's no other because that's almost like not participating, right?
That's right.
For our purposes. So we want to know what you think. I'm curious. I have a feeling it's going to be physical looks, but we will have to see. We'll have to wait and see, Michelle.
Yeah,
guys,
I'm looking forward to it.
Go on over to episode 2561, how to blow open your English vocabulary. Michelle, I think we've done the takeaway already. That really is the takeaway. We're giving you the tools for connection here, and also the tools to learn more about yourself, because sometimes as you reflect on your own traits and physical aspects, sometimes we realize something about ourselves through that conversation with someone else, right?
Definitely. Yeah. So take some time to reflect on that and use these to have some really good conversations with people.
All right. Great episode today, Michelle. I'll talk to you soon.
All right. Bye, Lindsay. Bye, guys.
Bye.